Well, there are 3 cases on our incident desk this month, and here as usual are Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
North London Police need your help to find out who was responsible for an attack in Hampstead which turned into a murder. The victim was Richard Barry, a 25-year-old London University student. He died in hospital 2 days after the attack, which happened in the early hours of Sunday, November the 18th. Richard had left a party in Haverstock Hill near Belsize Park Tube Station at about 3 a.m. As he walked up Roslyn Hill towards Hampstead Tube Station, he was set upon and beaten about the head with a 2-foot-long piece of wood. Despite his injuries, he staggered a further 500 yards up the hill to Heath Street, where he was discovered, slumped and bleeding, and was taken to hospital. Richard could only give a confused account of what had happened. He talked of 3 men, one of them black, and a Ford Cortina car, possibly blue. He also said he'd met a man outside a tube station who had demanded money. We've very little to go on and are hoping someone watching tonight remembers seeing Richard. He was wearing this distinctive fez-type hat, a dark bomber jacket and jeans. If you saw something, however insignificant it may seem, that's between 3 and 4 a.m. on November the 18th, please ring.
Colleagues from the RUC in Belfast are looking for this man who last year carried out a serious assault on a 15-year-old girl. It was on Monday the 1st of October when, just before 9 p.m, the girl left her friend's house in Andersonstown, West Belfast, to walk home. As she walked along a busy route, Glen Road, she passed 2 teenage boys walking in the opposite direction. If that was you, please ring. You might well have seen her attacker, for as she passed the entrance to the Christian Brothers Secondary School, a man grabbed her from behind. She managed to turn and get a good look at him. She describes him as 30 to 35, about 5'10", with a slim build. He was wearing a grey or blue jacket with a zip-up front and bleached jeans, and he had very rough hands. During the assault, he tried to push her over the school railings, but she kept fighting, and finally he gave up and ran off. At St Mary's, a local school further along Glen Road, there was a rehearsal for a play which ended at about 9:30. If you were leaving then, you may have seen the man running away. My Belfast colleagues need to speak to anyone in the Glen Road area who may have seen him that night. They are very worried that this man may attack again.
You may remember last summer reading about the disappearance of Nicholas Whiting, a garage owner from Kent. He was abducted from his garage premises on the 7th of June and his body was found a month later at Rainham Marshes in Essex. That was on the 2nd of July. He'd been shot and stabbed. His watch was missing and it could lead us to his killer. It was a Rolex Submariner watch like this, except the face was black. It's unusual, we think there are only 3 or 4 black ones in the country, and it's worth about £5,000. If you've bought one since June, check the serial number under the strap. 918961 is the number on the watch that's missing. You may well have bought it in all innocence, but it could prove to be a vital clue to what is still a baffling murder. If you have any information on this, or indeed any of our other incident desk cases, please ring us now.
And here's the number. As I say, if you can help with any of those cases, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181. Now to this month's incident desk. Here to take us through it, Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
Good evening. First, colleagues in Merseyside need your help to solve the brutal rape of a 14-year-old schoolgirl. If you recognise this man, please ring now. We think he'd been indecently exposing himself to young girls and women throughout the evening of Sunday the 20th of January in and around the Rain Hill area of Merseyside. At 9 o'clock in Chatsworth Road, he exposed himself to 3 14-year-old girls and started to follow one of them along the main A57 Warrington Road. At Wiston Hospital Nurses' Home, he attacked and raped her. He did, however, leave a clue behind, this emerald green T-shirt. We know it was bought from Freeman's Summer '89 catalogue. He's 25 to 30, 5'9" to 6 feet tall, very skinny and looks scruffy. If you think you recognise him or the T-shirt, please call us now.
Police Constable Mark Thorpe will never forget the early hours of Monday the 28th of January. He and a colleague answered a routine call to investigate a burglar alarm going off at Gateway Supermarket in Bristol. There they disturbed 2 men robbing the cigarette kiosk near the entrance. Mark Thorpe was stabbed repeatedly by the man he tackled. The descriptions of the robbers are vague because they wore balaclavas. We only know they were well built, one's 5'6" and the other's 6 feet tall. Their getaway car is a better clue. It was stolen almost a week before, on January the 22nd, from Oxford. It's a red Toyota Supra with false plates, registration number E351UBW. It was found on fire 3 miles away from the robbery in the St George's area of Bristol. Perhaps you saw it parked somewhere between January the 22nd and the 28th. And it had done 640 miles that week, but it's only 70 miles from Oxford to Bristol, so where had it been? If you can help on this, please do ring. PC Thorpe and his colleagues would be very grateful, and there is a very substantial reward on offer.
If you know this woman, you could help us find her murderer. On Sunday, February the 3rd, her body was found in southeast London. She'd been battered to death. My colleagues are searching for clues to her identity. They know she's about 30 with blue-grey eyes. She's 5 feet tall and wore size 10 clothes. This is how she was dressed on the night she died, and these are her real clothes. She was seen on a ferry from France and said she was returning from visiting her ex-husband in Paris. She herself was English. Why was she in the New Cross area of London on Saturday night, the 2nd of February? She was seen on a number 141 bus at 11:30 p.m, only 6 hours before her body was found in nearby Telegraph Hill Park. If you do know this lady, please ring us tonight. Someone, family or friend, must be missing her by now.
Some London burglars have left an unusual clue behind, one of their friends' voices on tape. On Thursday, December the 13th, a house was robbed in Maida Vale, London by 3 men. But they got a woman to ring up and check that only the German au pair would be in when they called on the pretence of delivering some flowers. See if you recognise her voice while we show you some of the things the gang stole.
This is into Flora. We've got a basket of flowers to be delivered. Can you tell me what time she'll be returning?
I don't know, but I'm here till 3 o'clock, so...
She won't be returning before then?
Sorry?
What time will she be returning?
I don't know, I think about 4 o'clock.
Okay, but you're there till 3?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The thieves were in their 30s and had London accents. We think they used a white BMW 5 Series for their getaway. If you know who they are or recognise the woman's voice, please ring.
And now a case which made national news headlines, the murder of Hertfordshire accountant Patrick Hurling. He was strangled in the early hours of Saturday, December the 1st, at his home in Hertford, and fires were started in the house and garage. A number of his personal belongings are missing, and my Hertfordshire colleagues are hoping they will lead him to his killer. First, there's his 18-carat gold wedding ring, the pair to this one. It's unusual and has 3 bands with a brick design. The outer bands are yellow gold and the inner one white gold. We think it's engraved with TC 7315 or with a consecutive number. Also missing is his black leather wallet like this one with Bridgman Golf Society 1989-90 in gold lettering. And Mr. Helling's credit cards are also missing. But the most distinctive of all is this identity bracelet. We've had a copy made up. It's set with diamonds spelling his name. There's a larger reward for information leading to convictions in this case. So if you recognise any of these things or you think you can help in any way, please call us.
Many of our appeals to you for help involve odd circumstances, but this one is particularly strange. A body was dumped here on some wasteland 6 weeks ago. The area is Allerton Park near Leeds, and it's a relatively isolated part of the city. What's strange is the condition of the body. Scientists tell us that it's of a man who died at least a year ago, but he could have been dead for up to 5 years. He's never been properly buried and nobody knows who he is. Perhaps you'll recognise him from this model of his face, reconstructed from his skull. He was white, probably in his 20s, 5'2" to 5'6", with an average build and light brown or ginger hair. Or you might remember his ear stud, watch, or the jumper that he was wearing, like this one. My Leeds colleagues need any help you can give them on this, so if you do recognise him, please ring.
And finally, I'd like to give a word of warning to anyone trying to sell their car through a local paper. If you get a call from someone guaranteeing to sell it for you in 72 hours, be extremely suspicious. Last July, 2 men started up a company called Bedford Cars to do just that. 9 quality cars worth more than £80,000 have subsequently disappeared. Don't add your name to the list of frustrated ex-owners. There are two men to look out for. Kenneth Ward is 30, 5'10" and of slim build. He has a large tattoo on his right forearm with the word Yorkshire written under a picture of a rose. He also calls himself Roger Phillips and Robert Brown. His partner calls himself William Day, and he is described as 30 to 40, 6 foot, stocky build with possibly a Scottish accent. These two men only stayed in Bedford for 2 weeks, so they could be in your area now. So if you're thinking of letting them sell your car, please don't. Ring us instead on this or any of our other incident desk cases.
And this is the number if you can help. 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Now, though, to this month's incident desk. Here with the details are DC Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Good evening. Tonight we start with a case which angered the nation and is enough to make every parent fearful. Raymond Kelly, at only 17, was gunned down in cold blood at a garage in Hartley-Wintney in Hampshire on the 1st of February. Two callous thieves armed with a shotgun got away with £70 from the till after shooting him in the back as he lay on the floor as instructed. The whole thing took less than a minute, so descriptions are vague. The man who snatched the money from the till was wearing a jacket like this one, and we think it had a motif here. He was in his late teens to early 20s and fairly slim. The man with the gun was the same age, but shorter and stockier. They ran off towards a light-coloured, older-style hatchback car, maybe a Fiesta, Chevette or Astra, possibly with a W in the registration. This man was seen near the garage after the shooting. Involved. Ring us if you recognise him. Raymond Kelly had only just left school. He had his whole life ahead of him. If you know anything, however insignificant it may seem, please do ring. There is a reward. Someone must know who killed this young lad.
A student from Sheffield will always be thankful that she was carrying one of these personal attack alarms. In the early hours of Monday the 28th of January, she was walking along Crooks Valley Road near the university. As she passed by the park, a man jumped out and grabbed her, pinning her against a wall. He indecently assaulted her and punched her in the face, but she managed to activate her personal attack alarm and the man fled. Although she was badly shaken and bruised, she was able to give this description of him. He was between 35 and 40, 5'10", medium build with short brown untidy hair and had a local Sheffield accent. Do you know who he is? He was scared off by her alarm. It did its job, and many people do feel more reassured if they're carrying one. These are just a few of the different alarms on the market. They cost from about £3 to £16. If you're thinking of buying one, do choose an alarm which locks on. So if it's knocked out of your hand, it'll keep making a noise. If you do buy one, remember to keep it handy. You might not have time to look for it.
The rape of a man is rarely publicised, but in London, colleagues are investigating an extremely brutal attack on a young man which led to him being beaten, raped and left for dead in a hotel in Bayswater. On Monday the 11th of February, the man who comes from Thailand came out of Queensway tube station at 11:35 p.m. He was on his way to work at a local hotel. Turning down Porchester Gardens, he was surrounded by 3 men. He describes them as Arabs, possibly Algerian. You may have seen a struggle going on as he was then bundled along the street and into a hotel at 9 Kensington Gardens Square. Once here, you might have heard his shouts for help. This is one of his attackers. He's about 27, 5'9", and has a distinctive mop-like black curly hair. The victim thought he'd seen him before in Bayswater, so there's a good chance that he lives or works locally. The Queensway area of London is always busy, even at night, and there must have been people about on February the 11th, even though there was still heavy snow on the ground. If you saw this man or his 2 friends that night, or at any other time, do please ring us.
Next, an appeal on what appears to have been a break-in that went wrong, with tragic circumstances. James Gallagher worked as a security night watchman at Kavanagh Kincaid's engine works at Greenock in Renfrewshire, Scotland. Sometime throughout the night of Friday, 1st of February, the works were broken into and Mr Gallagher was found brutally murdered the next morning. The only clues we have to go on are that a burgundy-coloured Sierra, registration E104ATY, was stolen that night from the premises James Gallagher was guarding, along with this TV video recorder and other electronic equipment. Whoever stole that car would have gone home reeking of paint thinner, which had been spilt inside. If you do know anything at all, please ring us tonight. Remember, James Gallagher was murdered just for doing his job.
It seems some thieves really do stop at nothing. This staircase from Belfast was stolen, these intricate Yorkshire gates were nicked, and even a 30-foot high stained glass window was dismantled piece by piece. And these architectural thefts are sadly on the increase. Hutton in the Forest is an historic house open to the public near Penrith in Cumbria. One night in early December, thieves snatched the 2 lead cupids from the top of these gate posts. One of them proved too heavy and was dumped in the grounds. They even tried to take this statue of Mercury as well, but only succeeded in breaking it. 2 nights later, thieves came back again and stole another lead statue, this time a life-size figure of a goddess by the 18th century artist Van Nost. You'll certainly recognise her because her left leg's broken and she's peppered with bullet holes. During the Second World War, when forces were stationed at Lord Inglewood's stately home, they enjoyed shooting at the garden ornaments for target practice. If you've seen any of these beautiful objects, do let us know. You could save a small but precious part of our heritage. And if you can help with this or any of our other incident desk cases, do please call us now.
This is the number 081 811 8181. And incidentally, there's more information on those personal attack alarms Jackie was talking about on CFAX, if you have that, on page 618. But perhaps you can identify something or someone in one of our incident desk cases tonight. Here are Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Good evening. Our first case tonight is a tragic one, an armed robbery which 2 weeks later turned into a murder investigation. 63-year-old security guard Gordon Rogers was making a delivery to the Midland Bank in Guildford. It was the morning of Thursday the 21st of February. 2 men, one armed with a gun, tried to hijack the security van. From his hospital bed, Mr. Rogers explained what happened.
I started struggling with him. In the end, I think he must have gave up. Wasn't going to win, he just shot me, and where he went from there, I couldn't tell you.
Gordon Rogers was to die from his injuries 2 weeks later. This is an artist's impression of the gunman, who Mr. Rogers thought was in his late 20s to early 30s, around 5'8", with a slim build. The other man was about 30, 6 foot, and had a heavy build. Maybe you saw who was driving the getaway car, a blue Vauxhall Carlton. It had been missing from Sidcup, Kent since the 4th of February, and in that time could have shown one of 3 registration numbers: D516NKN, J59179 or D123CAR. Or perhaps you saw the car being abandoned at the Post House Hotel just outside Guildford. It would have been at about 11:15 a.m. There's a substantial reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the men who shot Gordon Rogers. He was killed for just doing the job he'd enjoyed for the past 24 years, so please do ring if you can help in any way.
My colleagues in West Lothian are now gravely concerned for Vicky Hamilton, a schoolgirl who disappeared nearly 5 weeks ago. According to family and friends, Vicky was in good spirits on Sunday, February the 10th, having spent the weekend with her sister. This is what she was wearing at the time. She was on her way home that afternoon, but after going off the centre of Bathgate, where she was to change buses, she just seemed to vanish. Since then, the search has taken an ominous turn, as 11 days later, Vicky's purse was found in a gutter in the centre of Edinburgh. We know it hadn't been there long, and as far as we can tell, it's intact. Vicky is only 15 years old. Could you have seen her since February the 10th? If so, please call us here tonight.
Now we urgently need your help to try and identify this little boy, because we are seriously concerned for his safety. This is an artist's impression of him, which has been taken from a video seized by the Obscene Publications Squad at New Scotland Yard. The boy has 3 dark moles in the shape of a triangle on his left cheek. He was also wearing this type of black leather trainer, quite unusual. They've got white diamond-shaped patterns on the side and a white rim around the soles. We think the video could be up to 5 years old, so the boy could be aged anywhere between 7 and 12. Those 3 moles on his left cheek are very distinctive. A parent, teacher, or perhaps a doctor might recognise him. If you think you know him, please call us immediately. We need to be sure that he's alive and well.
It's in fact very rare for a woman to be attacked if alone when her car breaks down, but such cases always stay in the mind. You may remember in February a woman was attacked and raped by the side of the A1. It was about 5:45 on Friday the 22nd of February when she pulled over onto the hard shoulder of the northbound A1 at the Alconbury Hill flyover in Cambridgeshire. It was dark and raining. Being the rush hour, there were plenty of cars about as she walked towards the Alconbury House Hotel. On the way, she passed a red saloon car which had stopped on the A604 slip road. She refused an offer of help from the driver, but only yards further on she saw him running towards her. He raped her only 10 feet from the busy dual carriageway. He was 30 to 35, 5'10" with thick brown hair and a moustache. She describes him as a businessman and remembers that he was very softly spoken and smelt strongly of beer. When she saw him in the car, he was wearing a white shirt and a dark tie with diagonal stripes and had small square gold cufflinks. When he attacked her, he wore a light grey hooded jogging top. You may have seen him in the hotel car park because after the attack, his victim saw him drive out of there northwards. She remembers his red car had red cut-out headrests and that the seats were patterned in grey and blue. At about 6:15, someone saw him go into the Happy Eater about 2 miles north on the A1 and noticed his jogging top was soaking wet. Did you see him there or anywhere else that night? If you think you recognise him, please do phone us now.
This sort of attack creates fear amongst women, and of course there's a lot of confusion about what you should do if your car does break down. Our advice is to get out of the car in case there's an accident on the hard shoulder. You should wait near the unlocked passenger seat, locking all the other doors. Then, if someone does approach, you can get in and lock that door. Always keep your hazard lights on.
Passing motorists should simply phone the police rather than approaching a broken down vehicle. This will ensure help comes without being frightening to the stranded motorist.
Our next case seems to have all the ingredients of an American underworld killing, but it happened in a quiet Kent village. Alan Leppard was in bed when his doorbell rang on Easter Monday. It was 10:40 at night. He lived on the high street of Monkton near Ramsgate, and it was here that he answered the door to 2 men. He was shot at point-blank range and died shortly afterwards. Were you in the area that night? The Fox Hunter Caravan Park is only yards away. Were you there over Easter? People saw 2 men that night driving a big American car like this. It was cruising around Monkton. Or perhaps you saw this man. He was one of Mr. Leppard's visitors, in his 40s with grey hair going white. If you know anything about Alan Leppard's murder or the strange events in Monkton that night, please call us here.
Taxi driver Stephen Gaines thought there was nothing unusual about this passenger who he picked up from Durham Station on Thursday the 7th of February. It was about 2:40 in the afternoon and it was snowing. Cast your mind back, the man may have been hanging around outside the station, or you could have been on the same train as him. He asked to be driven to Lanchester, then wanted to go on, and at Buttsfield he complained of feeling ill and asked Stephen to stop. As he pulled over into the lay-by, his passenger suddenly produced a large knife and attacked him. Stephen was stabbed in the stomach, but eventually managed to escape from his taxi. The attacker drove off in it, a light blue Vauxhall Cavalier. It was found abandoned the next day outside Bear Park School a few miles away. Did you see it being dumped there? Stephen's attacker is described as 5'8", about 29 to 35. He has dark hair, greying at the temples, and his beard was neatly trimmed. He was wearing a navy blue padded jacket and a light-coloured shirt, which may be spotted with blood. He had a local accent and must have been familiar with the area. We're hoping that this knife may be the clue that leads us to him. It was found 4 miles from the abandoned car, and it could well be the one used in the attack. We're very worried that this man may attack again. If you know anything about this or any of our other incident desk cases, please call us now.
And if you can help, here's the number, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181. Well, now some brief appeals directly from the police themselves. Here with this month's incident desk are Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Good evening. We start with an urgent appeal on a case that's had relatively little national publicity. It's about Joe Ramsden. Jo is 21, but because she has Down syndrome, in terms of understanding, she's a young and vulnerable child. If she's been taken somewhere or wandered off, she must be very confused, frightened and totally unable to cope with her situation. The local community in our hometown of Bridport, Dorset know her well and have pulled together in an effort to find her. Teams of volunteers and the army have made extensive searches of the area, but we still have no clue where she is. Jo disappeared a month ago today, on Tuesday the 9th of April, with only 80p in her pocket. She's 5'1", of athletic build, with short brown hair. She was wearing clothes like these and she was carrying a Liverpool boot bag like this one. During the afternoon she was spotted several times in South Street, Bridport. She has difficulty crossing the road on her own, and so it wasn't unusual to see her crossing with the help of a man at about 20 to 2. He's been described as 5'5", mid-20s to mid-30s, with short fair hair. He was wearing a brightly coloured jumper. We know he was holding her hand as they crossed the road, and we'd like him to contact us in case she said where she was going, because at 4:30 she was seen on her own at the junction of Skilling Hill Road and South Street. That was the last time anyone saw her. If you know where she is now or have seen her in the last month, please contact us. The people of Bridport will not rest easy until Jo is safely back home.
We badly need your help tonight to find this man. He's already assaulted 3 women in Bristol, all violent sexual attacks. He's between 20 and 25, about 5'10", with dark hair, and has a West Country accent, so he may well be a local man. He wore a brown leather bomber jacket with jeans with a knife-edge crease. We also need to find a man who saved one of the women from her ordeal. If you remember shouting from Hanbury Road, Clifton, at a couple struggling in the gardens, do please ring us. It was about 10:10 on Thursday the 14th of March. Your shout scared off the attacker. You may not have realised that the little you saw may well give officers the vital help they need. All 3 of his attacks happened in Clifton, the student area of Bristol. If you know who he is, ring us now.
If either of these belong to you, the Central London Drug Squad would like to know. Cleaners at a London hotel found them in an empty bedroom. They were full of cocaine, worth well over £1 million on the street. Staff checked records and found the room was let to a Mr. Terry Shaw, who'd arrived the night before and paid cash for his stay, giving an address in Liverpool. But, like his name, that too turned out to be false. And here he is checking in at the front desk with his large suitcase. We think the briefcase full of cocaine is inside it. He goes off to his room and 4 minutes later is seen leaving empty-handed. But don't worry, we wouldn't ask you to identify him from these pictures alone. Hotel staff have compiled this picture. He's about 20 to 25 and had pock-marked skin. He spoke with a Liverpool accent. The cases are distinctive too. This one has a chalk mark and the figures 315 on the side. And this expensive leather briefcase has this unusual fish logo stamped on it. If you'd like to claim either of these cases, or you recognise this man, please call us now.
My colleagues in Greater Manchester need your help to find this man, Frank Embury. They believe he may be able to assist them with their investigation into a number of offences involving children. He's 59, 5'7", medium build with brown hair. He wears glasses and often a hat. His last known addresses were in Manchester and Prestatyn, North Wales, but he could be anywhere in the country by now, perhaps working as an electrician, possibly in the television industry. If you know Frank Embury or have any information about his whereabouts, please call us now.
And finally, if you were at Wimbledon Station in London last Saturday night, that's Bank Holiday Saturday, you may be able to help solve the callous murder of 39-year-old James Dolan. Mr. Dolan, of no fixed address, was drinking cans of beer with a couple of friends outside the station between 8:30 and 9:40 p.m. when he was set upon by 2 men. They punched and kicked him with such severity that he died in hospital of his injuries just a few hours later. There were hundreds of people on Wimbledon Station that night, and we want to hear from anyone who witnessed the attack. In particular, we need to trace a taxi driver who was parked nearby. Part of the registration of his black cab is known. It has a C prefix and CYY at the end. It also has an advertisement for the opera Tosca on its door. If that was you, please do ring. You may have caught sight of the 2 men who attacked Mr. Dolan. They're both white, between 25 and 30, One is about 5 foot 9 inches tall, stocky build with black hair. He was wearing a grey casual jacket. The other man is taller, medium build and hair, possibly wearing a brown knee-length overcoat. Please do ring if you saw them anywhere on the station. Remember, that was at Wimbledon last Saturday between 8:30 and 9:40 p.m. If you can help with this or any of our other incident desk cases, please do ring us now.
And the number once again, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Well, now with this month's incident desk cases, here are Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Good evening. First, my colleagues in Surrey need your help to find the gang who committed an armed robbery in Weybridge on Wednesday the 27th of March. The Midland Bank is in the middle of Weybridge next to St James Church. Just after 10 o'clock, 3 men were seen acting suspiciously behind the church. They were huddled together and looked as if they were plotting something. This man was 35 to 40, 5 foot 10 to 6 foot, slim, with black hair, dark eyes, and had a sallow complexion. He may have had a moustache. The second man was older, 50 to 55, 5 foot 4 to 5 foot 7, slim, with a small face described as weasel-like. We don't have a good description of the man on the motorbike. In fact, those men were about to attack the Group 4 security van. The security van driver was forced to follow a waiting motorcyclist who led him on a 1.5 mile journey through Weybridge to New Haw. In Byfleet Road, they stopped at the gate to a gravel track leading to the Way Navigation Canal. By this time, another motorbike and a white transit van were following. Perhaps you recognise this man. He's in his early 20s, 6 foot and medium build. The robbery took place round a bend in the track. They locked the gate behind them. The robbers had removed the original padlock and replaced it with their own in the previous 2 days. Having tied up the guards, the robbers made their getaway on the 2 scrambler motorbikes. They went to the White Hart roundabout and up New Hall Road. In Medway Drive, the 2 pillion passengers got into a white Ford Sierra and drove off in the direction of Addlestone. But they did leave behind a number of clues. This Hilti gun, it's used by builders to fire staples into concrete. And these 2 blue boiler suits with the name Spring Grove Services. They were used by Lambeth Council in London until June of last year. Do you know who's had them since? And one man lost his hat. If you know who this belongs to, or can help in any way, please ring us now.
Between the beginning of November last year and April this year, there's been a series of sexual attacks on women in the North End area of Birkenhead. Colleagues believe it is the same man. As you can see from the artist's impressions, the women's descriptions of their attacker are strikingly similar. He's about 40 and around 5 foot 10, stocky with short dark brown hair. The most recent attack happened in Upper Brassey Street at about 3 a.m. on Sunday, April the 14th. That's about 300 yards from a piece of derelict land known locally as the Wreck, where 2 of the women were raped, and about half a mile away from Bidston Hill, where another woman was raped. This man's violence is becoming more frequent. If you've any idea who he might be, please call us.
Next, can you help to identify this man? We think he's from Kent, as it was here that he molested 2 boys in broad daylight as they played in a park. The young brothers were playing pitch and putt at Moat Park, Maidstone, when they were attacked. It was the afternoon of Saturday, April the 13th. When they went for help, the man ran off up to a housing estate where he was able to call for a taxi, which we know took him to Maidstone West Station. From here, we think he took a train to either Strood or Rochester. Did you see him? He's between 35 and 40, 5 foot 8, stocky build with dark, greasy, swept-back hair. He told the boys his name was Richard and the taxi firm, Mr. Roberts. If you know him at all, please call us.
How much do we take for granted that someone is who they say they are, especially when they appear to be an official? Staff at the electricity showroom in Winsford, Cheshire, are certainly kicking themselves for not checking the credentials of this man. He called on them on Friday the 5th of April, dressed in what seemed to be British Telecom overalls and with an official-looking pass. But as soon as the engineer got access to the back of the showroom, he let in 2 colleagues. They tied up the staff and robbed the shop. All 3 men were in their late 40s and had Liverpudlian accents. The man at the top is about 6 foot and his hair and beard are flecked with grey. The second man is also 6 foot. He was wearing a grey suit, as was the third man. On Monday the 13th of May, 2 of them robbed the Embassy Bingo Hall in Wallasey, Merseyside. Did you see them leave at 10:30 in the morning? If you did, please give us a ring. And you can contact us here until midnight if you can help on this or any of our other incident desk cases.
And here's the number to ring if you can help, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181. Well, let's try and do as well again tonight with some new appeals in brief. Here again are Jackie Hames and David Hatcher.
On the 30th of July, an off-duty policeman witnessed an armed robbery on a Securicor van. It happened in St Leonard's Road, Northampton. The robbers drove off in this Golf GTI and as the officer tried to block their way, they shot at him. Luckily, he wasn't hurt. The 2 men were both dressed in sports gear. The younger man was between 20 and 25, about 5'8", and a slim to medium build. The other man was between 30 and 40, 5'10" to 6 foot, and had a pot belly. So if you think you recognise these 2, please call us now.
Next, a fire in southeast London that led to a murder inquiry. This is a disused warehouse in Copeland Road, Peckham, and it's 11 p.m. on August the 8th. After the fire brigade had put out the blaze, they discovered the body of a man who'd been beaten over the head before being doused with petrol. We think he's between 40 and 60 years old, 6 foot tall, had brown hair which was going grey and receding, and these distinctive whiskers. He also wore dentures. His dark suit had this handwritten mark on the trouser label, Fenton or Fento Gen Hoss. If it is a hospital, we can't find it. Maybe you know what it means. If you think you know anything that will help the murder team, ring us now.
And if you know who this shopper is, you could help solve a robbery. At midnight on Sunday the 4th of August, the manager of the Thomas Cook Bureau de Change was hijacked at gunpoint outside his home in Ash near Margate, Kent. 2 men forced him to drive over 100 miles to his office in Newhaven and hand over £35,000. One of them may have been caught on camera in the village supermarket in Ash earlier in the day. And this is an e-fit of one of the hijackers. Pretty similar, isn't it? He's about 30, 5'8" tall, and the other man called him Ton Up. This is the man who had the gun. He's about 6 foot tall, well built, and kept using the slang word kushti. In fact, both men have London accents. If you think you recognise them, please call us. There's a £10,000 reward.
Next, we need your help to identify this man. In June, he abducted and raped an 11-year-old girl from Quorn near Leicester. He drove her around for over an hour before he left her in the Ashby Road area of Loughborough, 3 miles away. He's in his mid-30s, 5'9", with a slim face and fair hair. He had piercing blue eyes and a Scottish accent. His car is a white Mark III Ford Escort. It's a hatchback with grey and blue patterned seats and is about 5 to 8 years old. That's an A to D registration. If you can place a man like that with that car, please call us now.
On Sunday the 25th of August, the annual Notting Hill Carnival took place. About 1 million people went this year and, as usual, it went with a swing. But later that evening, something happened which marred what would otherwise have been a fairly trouble-free carnival. The murder of scientist Nick Hanscom. Nick had been at the carnival for most of the day, but just after 10 o'clock, like many other people, he was making his way home. Nick was stabbed by a group of men aged between 16 and 20 after being forced against a wall at the junction of Fernhead Road and Marburn Road. He died shortly afterwards. If you were in that area, you may have witnessed the attack without realising what was happening. So please do contact us if you feel you can help in any way with this or any of our other incident desk cases.
And here's the number once again, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Now to this month's incident desk. Can you help police in Northern Ireland find the murderer of Rosemary Moran? In the City of London, 2 armed men robbed a bank and terrorised staff. The drug squad in Norfolk would like to speak to this man. And in Cambridgeshire, who is this gunman who shot and robbed a post office worker? With the details are Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Good evening. First, can you help solve the murder of a woman in Newry, Northern Ireland? Rosemary Moran was married with a 4-year-old son. She had a good job as a supervisor at the DSS in Newry, County Down. On Thursday the 22nd of August, she was found stabbed to death in her hallway. She went home for lunch that day and was seen on her own driving her distinctive white Mercedes car just after 1 p.m. But at 20 to 2, a man was seen driving her car near her house. Then 5 minutes later, there's another sighting of the car, but this time he had a woman passenger with blonde shoulder-length hair. The man's between 30 and 40 with a thin, clean-shaven face and fair, sandy hair. Mrs. Moran's car was found abandoned not far from where the couple were seen driving. This hunting knife was in the car. It's probably the murder weapon. The handle was broken but stuck together with yellow sticky tape. If you think you recognise this or the face of the man in the artist's impression, please call us now.
Our next case comes from the City of London, where these two robbed a bank, terrorising staff. As the Morgan Grenfell Bank in Great Winchester Street was opening its doors on September the 4th, the two armed men went in posing as workmen. Then they attacked two cashiers and left them blindfolded, gagged and bound to chairs. Perhaps you noticed the gunman struggling with 3 of these cash boxes. One man was 6 foot, had short blonde hair and wore gold-rimmed glasses. The other was shorter and stockier. They were both in their late 20s and spoke with soft Southern Irish accents. Please call if you can help. There is a reward.
Next, an intriguing case from Norfolk, where drug squad officers would like to speak to this man. He booked into a hotel in Attleborough this August, calling himself Mr. Butler. We believe he may know something about 2 large consignments of cannabis resin which were found by police in the town this summer. One haul was crammed into the boot of this stolen Ford Granada, which had been parked in the hotel car park. And in the Haverscroft industrial estate, a second haul was found some 3 weeks later. The street value of those drugs is over £5 million. Butler is described as about 25, 5'8", stocky with blonde hair, combed back with what's known as a widow's peak. He seems to know about the printing trade and motor racing. So if you recognise him, please ring us.
If you can identify this face, you could help solve a robbery where shots were fired indiscriminately and innocent people were injured. Just after 10:30 in the morning of Monday the 15th of July, the gunman approached post office workers in Arbury Court, Cambridge. He shot one man in the leg and threatened his colleague before stealing money from their van. As he left, he calmly shot at an elderly man driving towards him. The robber joined an accomplice who's described as about 50, with grey receding hair and wearing tinted specs. Both drove off in a stolen white Renault, which was abandoned half a mile away in the Kingsway Flats in Arbury. The car had been stolen 8 months earlier. Where was it kept between November and July? During that time, it probably displayed these false plates. Do you know who made them up? The gunman is between 25 and 35, 6 foot, heavy build with dark hair and a beard. At the time of the attack, he wore a red crash helmet. Call us if you know who he is or if you can help on any of our incident desk cases.
And here's the number, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Well, now we had some intriguing results on one particular case from last month's incident desk, but the investigation at the moment is at such a sensitive stage that we can't divulge any details at the moment. So instead, we'll take a look at the latest cases, and here are Jackie Hames and David Hatcher.
First, police in Essex need your help to trace a lorry involved in a fatal hit-and-run accident. It happened here on the southbound section of the M11 near Stansted Airport at about 2 in the morning on Friday the 13th of September. 19-year-old Damien Nichols was on his way to stay the night with relatives when a lorry knocked him off his motorbike and left him by the side of the road. When police found him, he was dead. A forensic examination established that the vehicle involved is one of these, an ERF E-Series lorry cab. The accident would have damaged the near side indicator and the step on the side. We also know that the bumper on the lorry is metallic blue and that the door is maroon. Perhaps you've seen a lorry with damage to these areas, or maybe even carried out the repairs. If you know anything that can help, please call us.
Our next case concerns the rape of a woman in London, but a vital witness could be anywhere in the country. This is the heart of London, home of the theatre and Soho. On Friday the 4th of October at about 10 p.m, a young woman was walking up Rupert Street when a group of men and women drinking outside this pub called over and offered to buy her a drink. She thought they seemed friendly enough and started to chat, and particularly remembers talking to a man called Mark. A short while later, they headed off to a party and invited her to come along. She agreed and they walked up Rupert Street, along Walker's Court and into Peter Street, but she can't remember where they went from there. What she does remember is going down a spiral staircase to a basement flat, which may have been a squat. Here she was given a drink which spiked and she lost consciousness for a couple of hours. When she came round, she realised she'd been raped.
This was a particularly sickening and cowardly crime. She suffered internal injuries, and we feel that there was more than one person involved. The man who calls himself Mark is about 30 years of age, 6 feet tall, muscular build and has a London accent. The man who gave her a drink at the party is Mediterranean-looking, weedy, puny build, greasy black hair, pockmarked face, with an earring in his left ear and a tattoo of a baby tiger on his left forearm.
And there's one more crucial witness we still need to trace. A man driving a dark blue Ford Orion saw the victim come out of the flat and kindly stopped to help. We desperately need to speak to this man, as he will remember where the attack took place. He drove her to Edgware, and she remembers him having a northern accent, possibly Mancunian. So if you were that good Samaritan, or if you have any information which could help us trace these two men, please give us a call.
On Sunday the 9th of June, 29-year-old Lynn Trenholm was fatally stabbed while she worked alone at Pinky's massage parlour in Chester. Lynn was last seen alive by a client at 2:30, and we know from her diary that her next appointment was at 5 o'clock with a man named John. We'd like to speak to that man. He could be the same John that used massage parlours in Warrington and Crewe during April and May. Of course, John might not be his real name, but this is what he looks like. He's in his late 20s with fine fairish hair and has a hooked nose. There is another important clue. A witness remembers a dark blue metallic Vauxhall Carlton estate parked outside at 10 to 5 that day. So if you know who the owner of the car is or recognise the man, please ring. Remember, this is a murder inquiry.
And can you help with this next case? On Sunday the 1st of September, the manager of Shaftesbury's nightclub in London was abducted while the weekend's takings were stolen. The night before, Radio Kiss FM had celebrated its first anniversary at Shaftesbury's. Around 9:30 the next morning, the manager left the club for home. As he drove along a side street in Tottenham, he became aware of a red van coming up very fast behind him. He tried to turn the corner, but the van hit him.
Didn't you see the indicator? You're blind or something.
The damage was minimal, and he began to take down the registration number.
What's going on?
They tied him up and held him at knife point for 2 hours while two of the gang stole his keys and went back to the club. He remembers that the van, an e-registration transit, had decorating equipment inside, and that the gang kept in contact with one another using portable phones. Two of the men involved were Asian, the other was Afro-Caribbean. He got the best look at the driver, who was Asian, about 25, 5'6" and slim build. If you think you know him or can help in any way, do please call us now. There is a reward.
And finally, colleagues from Lancashire are looking for one of these. It's a Venture Continental motorhome, and there are just 2 of them in the country. This is the identical twin to one that went missing during August this year when it was hired to a man from Southern Ireland for 5 weeks. It hasn't been seen since, and we think it's probably been sold on. It had the registration G585NHG, and although that's probably been changed by now, there are some unusual features to look out for. It's built on a Renault Dodge chassis, and rarer still, its left-hand drive. Here above the cab, extra windows have been fitted. There's a microwave oven, and for these chilly November evenings, there's even full central heating. If there's one like this parked in your road, it's bound to be the one we're looking for, so please do call us if you can help on this or any of our other incident desk cases.
And here's the number to the detectives in the studio. And remember, if you prefer, you can speak instead to BBC researchers. It's 081 811 8181. 081 811 8181. Well, now standing by to open this month's file of incident desk cases, here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
First, an extraordinary case which would have ended in tragedy if it hadn't have been for the courage and endurance of the victim. On Friday, 18th of October, Susan Johnson and her 3-year-old son were waiting in Seacroft Centre car park in Leeds for Susan's mother to return from shopping. Then a man jumped into Susan's car and, brandishing a flick knife, ordered her to drive off. He forced her to drive south down the M1 and throughout the journey repeatedly punched Susan and threatened her little boy. Her dog later died from the sick kicks he aimed at it. Susan's ordeal lasted 5 hours and finally ended here in Grafton Way in Milton Keynes, when after stealing her money and jewellery, the man ran off. Perhaps you recognise one of these rings or the gold chain bracelet. The attacker is in his late 30s, slim with fair, mousy, short hair. He was carrying a white plastic bag, smoked roll-ups and constantly used the word gutted. He wore a brown leather jacket with black trousers and was wearing a shirt similar to this. This man is very dangerous and must be stopped. If you know who he is, we need to hear from you.
Next, if you recognise a voice, you might help to catch 2 armed robbers who we think have committed offences in Berkshire and Suffolk. The latest was here at the Town and Country Building Society Stowmarket on Thursday, October the 31st. These 2 men came in, demanded money, and one of them threatened the cashiers with a gun.
I want all your money, girls, all of it. All the stuff from behind. Now, I'll put it in the bag. Come on, just give me the money. Quickly now, quickly. Nobody gets hurt. Customers come in, they'll get hurt. Be quicker than that, good. And more, and more. And your spare stuff. We know you've got a spare.
The man doing all the talking is aged 35 to 40, has a pock-marked face and pointed nose. His accomplice is in his late 20s and wore a white baggy cagoule with a dark blue shield-shaped badge on the right sleeve. We think that these 2 have committed at least 3 offences like this. On each occasion they handed a demand note to cashiers, and this time the first man got quite annoyed when the cashier refused to return the note. So listen again, and if you think you know who he is, please call us.
Give me the note, give me the note. Give me the note. Give it to me. Give it to me now.
If you can recognise some unusual artwork, you may help to find a sex attacker who turned one woman's evening stroll into the worst experience of her life. This is Reddish Vale in Stockport near Manchester. At about 6 p.m. on Thursday, September the 5th, a woman crossed the fields with her dog. As she headed towards the path, a fat man approached and tried to talk to her. She ignored him, but a few minutes later he grabbed her from behind and forced her to the ground. Holding her there for at least 10 minutes, he indecently assaulted her before running away. He's so overweight, his size must betray him. Someone must recognise this description. He was 20 stone, yet fairly short, only 5'6". He had dark hair and was wearing a very tight navy blue t-shirt and tracksuit bottoms. Although the victim was too upset to recall details about his face, she does remember these unusual tattoos. On both arms, the attacker had 4 or 5 vertical blue lines in an elongated S shape. She thought they saw the pink letters MYPA, or it could have been the name Myra on his left arm. If you think you can help with this or any of our other incident desk cases, please ring them now.
And here's the number, 081 811 8181. 081 811 8181.